How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Athletes Hub. As always, international break is over now. International break is over, and the Premier League is almost back. But before we discuss any Premier League action, we've got to talk about the past international fixtures. A few, good games in there as well, and a few tasty incidents. And as always, joining me to discuss all of that is Flexx.
Yes. Tasty incidents, like you said, but something that we quite do enjoy, which would be drinking the tears of the Nigerians.
Yeah, I mean, you beat me too. I was about to touch upon that, and listen, Nigerians, we send our commiserations to them for their exit against Congo via penalty shootout. So that means that the Super Eagles won't be in next year's World Cup. And Flexx is actually 2 years in a row that they've failed to qualify for the World Cup. And when you talk about Nigeria and African football, they're among the major nations that have high expectations, just like Ghana, the likes of Ivory Coast and Cameroon. And that's 2 years in a row now that they've not qualified for the World Cup. And you have to remember as well, they did lose the African Cup final to Ivory Coast as well, not that long ago. So when you look at Nigerian football now, is there sort of like a mini crisis at the moment?
I mean, what can I say? When you're not good enough, you're not good enough. But, is there a mini crisis? I don't know. They should have qualified from their group without the need to have to go through, the third place playoffs and things like that. And, it is what it is, so to speak. I can't speak too much on it. I'm not Nigerian and I don't know too much about what's going on. But I did see that their football association were not paying the players or not paying for something yet again, and which has caused a bit of angst in the camp, so that probably contributed to their performances leading up to the final.
Yeah, I mean, we did see the video. I think it was Alex Iwobi who posted a view from his balcony where they were staying. And you look at the surroundings there, it doesn't really come across as if it's the perfect accommodation for footballers to stay. And we, as you mentioned just there, we have spoken about African nations and the football associations actually supporting the athletes with the right accommodation and right preparation. And it seems like, again, we're talking about this, which is a shame. But when you look at the result and you look at the performance against Congo, do you feel as if when it comes to, the accommodation and the players not being paid, do you feel like when you get on that pitch, it should really affect your commitment and the expectation? Because let's face it, Nigeria are expected to beat Congo and they didn't do that. And so do you feel like these things like money and accommodation, do you think that really affects the players when they're on the pitch?
It must do to some degree, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not training and your mind's not really in the game, when you get on the pitch, it will, that will follow you. But with that being said, Congo is a very decent side. They've got quite a few very decent players there. So I wouldn't say it's expected for them to have beaten Congo. I would say it's expected for them to have reached the final. But, beating Congo is never easy. Very, very good side that they have there.
Yeah, and of course, Congo won via penalty shootout. And the Nigerian head coach came out and said that Voodoo was the reason why Congo beat them in the penalty shootout. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, do you feel like Voodoo can alter the outcome of a football match? Honestly, in Africa, I mean, it's not. I guess it's not that uncommon, I suppose. But do you feel like Voodoo would play a part in this?
Hey, look, I've seen videos, right, where somebody has taken something and put it like by the goalposts, and the other team haven't been able to score. And then someone from the opposing team clocks that there is something by the goalpost. They remove that thing, and then all of a sudden now the team can score goals. So is it possible that these things play a part? Wait, I'm neither here or there because I've never been involved. Do you get what I mean? So I genuinely don't know. But it being Africa, hey, anything's possible, right?
Well, it's just true. When you said that Voodoo could actually play a part, I'm wondering if that is really the case, why have we not utilized it to our advantage when it comes to tournaments, right? Because I think I recall that video you sent me, the one you just mentioned about the person who put the thing on the goalpost that they couldn't score. So if that's the case, why are African nations not utilizing this to their advantage and winning tournaments, winning major games, right?
I don't know. Maybe the Harry Potter magic is stronger than the West African juju.
It seems like it's working against Africa. Do you know what I mean? We're not getting any luck when it comes to these tournaments, man. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, the head coach was like, he was adamant that they used Voodoo to win the game, and I think probably a lot of people did say that they're kind of deflecting. And the Nigerian Football Association did post an apology via social media to the nationals about their failure to qualify for the World Cup, really. And listen, Ghana qualified. I think Congo. This is the first time they've qualified, right, for the World Cup.
I don't know if it's the first time, but if it is, then yeah, congratulations to them. They're gonna have a great time at that tournament, and there's a very strong Congolese contingent in London, and across the UK. So it will make for a good time, seeing them in the competition.
Yeah, 100%. And again, we kind of wish that with Ghana being, I guess, one of the main representatives of Africa next year, we can get a good tournament out of them. But yeah, I think, when it comes to international football for the past week as well, we've had some really eventful games. I don't know if you saw the Scotland and Denmark game on Tuesday night. And, we've got to mention, again, for the Scotland performance was amazing. It was a great game. Scotland leading, Denmark coming back to make it 2-2. Scotland scoring in injury time and then sealing the deal with a long-range shot from inside. I don't know if it was from the halfway line, but an inside shot to kind of make it 4-2 and seal the deal there. And Scotland qualifying for the first time since, I think it was 98. I think that's the last time they qualified for the World Cup. So they're back in amongst it. And we've got to discuss Scott McTominay. I mean, the guy is, at the moment, flying across all cylinders. His form has been outstanding at Napoli and also for the national team as well. What have we made of his form? Because we have touched upon him briefly in previous episodes, but it seems like right now the guy is living he's probably performing the best he's ever performed in his career right now.
Yeah, the guy's on fire, man. He's performing optimally. He's, I would say, maybe reached his potential. Could he be any better than this? I don't know, right? But we're talking about the MVP for Serie A, right? So this is not no slouch. This is not just any guy. This is the guy. This is Scott McTominay. This is the guy, I guess, United, probably wish they had amongst the ranks at this present time. But he's doing the business not only for club but for country as well. So goes to show that there's always a player in there.
It's true. I mean, if you look at his whole transformation now, you can look at his hair now. He's got his hair slicked back. He's got a different aura about him. He's loving the life in Italy. He's really taken towards Naples and the culture in Italy, and it seems like he's perfectly suits that league as well. Like, he's strong, he's big, he's powerful. And I know you mentioned United there as well. I mean, I never really looked at McTominay at United and thought as if, if he was to leave the club at one point, he would perform like how he's performing now. I felt like he was always a good player, he was always a good box-to-box player, a good energetic player. But I guess with the likes of Fernandes and Pogba in the team, he wasn't really allowed to play that number 10 position or that advanced role in the team. But you're seeing when he goes to Napoli and you're seeing with the Scotland team, he's playing in those advanced positions. He's actually producing goals. But there was times, I remember in the COVID season, I think there was a game against Leeds where he scored 2 goals in 5 minutes and he was playing in that advanced number 10 position. So he had it in his locker, but he just wasn't given opportunity because of the likes of Pogba in the team and Bruno Fernandes. But it's great to see him performing like that now. And you mentioned about United wishing that they had him in their ranks right now, but I remember at the time when he was playing with Fred in midfield, a lot of people did say that they weren't the answer for United. They weren't the solution. I remember Ole Gunnar Solskjaer really taken towards them two in midfield, particularly in the big games, because he knew what to get out of them, right? But there's a lot of people in the fan base, even pundits, were saying that these two are not going to get to the next level. So this idea now that that he should come back to United and he's the solution now is a bit strange to me, because when he was there, people didn't really rate him that highly. We didn't expect to see this form, right? Again, this is all hindsight, but people did say he wasn't the solution. So, it's kind of, I guess it's funny to see people saying we should have stayed now because he's doing well elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not about him staying, but I think it's more about if he was played in the position that he's supposed to be played in, which was a 10, which is where and how Napoli deploy him, what could he have been, right? And would we have seen this at his time at United if he was given the opportunity to play in that position? It's just like unanswered questions, because maybe if he did play in a 10 at United, maybe he still wouldn't have blossomed in the same way, So, hey, look, man, he's had a very great run of form, and he's on one again. So let's see how the season plays out.
Yeah, I mean, who's your favorite? Who's your favorites for like the World Cup? Because it seems like it's going to be a really big tournament next year. A lot of teams qualifying, and out in America as well. It's got a feeling that this is going to be a really special World Cup. Like, I know we spoke about this in our England sort of chat a few days ago, and if you've not seen that, guys, go watch that interview or that chat we had with Dylan around England. But when you look at different nations so far, who do you think is going to be like amongst the favourites next year?
I mean, you can never write off the big ones, but I think France would be favorite, pole position, if you ask me. And then you're looking at the likes of, Argentina. Can they keep it? Then you've got the likes of Brazil, then you've got England that are there for wild card chance, Belgium, they're due to do something, after all these years. So it's a tough one. I think it all depends on how the groups play out. And then as well as that, the head-to-heads when we get to the knockout stages will determine quite a few things, and it's good to see Norway in there as well, so we'll see how they perform. I feel like they could do surprisingly well. They've got a lot of good players in that team, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But if I'm picking a team, I'm gonna back France.
France are definitely among the favourites of the 2018 champions, and obviously won it in 1998 as well. But I looked at France as well. I looked at their performance at the Euros in last year, and you probably will say I was a bit disappointed with them because of the way that how they performed. But Spain were obviously magnificent in that tour. Would you put Spain in that bracket? Would you say that they would be amongst the favourites?
Yeah, no, they're in there with a shout. I feel like if they are able to keep, the team together, they'll be right there. Maybe quarters and maybe even a bit further. For me, their only problem is that they don't have a number 9 that is recognized for putting the ball in the back of the net like consistently, but they don't need that, of the way they play. So they're quite balanced everywhere else, and they'll be in there with a shout.
100%. I know you mentioned sort of England, and we spoke about England before, but in the past week, England winning 2-0 against Albania to wrap up their World Cup qualifying campaign, and Jude Bellingham made the headlines because of his supposed strop when he was substituted, and there's been a lot of talk about should they start Bellingham in the tournament, and Tuchel's obviously made it clear that he's not looking to set the best players, but the best team. So we look at the Jude Bellingham saga, I guess. I don't know. It feels like to me they're making a big deal out of nothing, really, because we know what Jude Bellingham's like. He's a passionate guy. He's still very young, but he's still, quite fiery. Even look at his interviews and him on the pitch. I think you mentioned this in our chat that he does step up when it matters, when the big occasion calls. He's there amongst it, right? But it just feels like when it comes to this situation with him being subbed and not being happy, I just feel like the media are making a big deal out of it because, again, England had a 100% record in the qualifying campaign, and this is a really big plus. And we said as well that we do think England will be in amongst the favourites, and it's a great chance for them to win it. So why not just get behind the team? Why not just create a positive environment? Why are we looking to select individual players and just criticize them? And do you know what I mean? It just feels like we're just looking. It feels like the media are waiting for something to happen or just waiting for it to go wrong so they can just criticize him and the team.
Mate, this is just what the press do. Happy to build you right the way up, only to bring you back down. He won't be the first, he won't be the last. It's just pretty much standard operating procedures from the British press, so there's nothing to say by way of England's performances, not conceding any goals, won every game, etc. So they're just nitpicking, and he's made himself a target by, behaving in a way that is, just free gain for the media. And so, you get targeted, and that's just what it is. If he doesn't like it, act accordingly. It's pretty simple, right?
Yeah.
The team is winning. You've played your part. You got subbed off. Go and sit down. You've got a game over the weekend for Madrid. Chill out. The game's done. But if you want to throw a strop and whatever, then you'll be a target. And I feel like it could have been anyone else. They would have been targeted. So
I feel like it's more Jude, though, isn't it? I think Jude is a big personality in the team. I remember when he scored against Slovakia and he said who else last year in the Euros. He's just that guy who, I guess, takes that limelight. He's got that aura about him, right? But I think you mentioned him being so. I think wasn't it 80th minute that he went off? So it wasn't like he went off in the 60th minute or half time. He got 80 minutes. So you got 10 minutes to rest, get ready for your game, like you said, in Madrid on the weekend. So yeah, it just felt.
It is what it is. I mean, look, if that's the type of character you are, then just expect that to happen all the time, and
Yeah.
get used to it, so to speak, right? So I feel like that's just what it is, and we'll see it during the World Cup. We're going to build up the team, say, yeah, it's coming home and all of this stuff, and flags all over the gaff and whatever. And then, the performances, for one reason or the other become subpar, and then we're there to point the finger right back at them. So that's just kind of how it goes. If they don't bring it home, there's nothing less than you expect nothing less than what we've been experiencing over the last few tournaments.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's weird because when you look at England in the past tournaments, the only tournament I can remember where things went really badly wrong was probably the 2010 World Cup. I'm not sure if you remember that tournament where they drew against USA in the first match, then drew against, I think, Algeria, and just barely got through to the knockout stages, and obviously got destroyed by Germany in that round of 16 game. I think other tournaments, you've seen a bit of progression with England, and particularly the last couple, there's not been too much there because of getting to finals, against semi-finals. But I think if it was to go badly wrong, where England didn't maybe make out the group stage or they didn't get past the round of 16 at least, then I would feel like that is a massive underachievement. But again, you're right. I think the media just pick and choose certain players. Had it with Beckham at one point, obviously after the '98 World Cup, and then Rooney as well, and now Bellingham. So it just feels like they're just picking a scapegoat for no reason now because the tournament's not begun. Again, 100% record, no goals conceded, like you mentioned. Let's just get behind the team, man. We've got friendlies in March. Get behind and play a few more games, and then we'll get to the tournament, and then we'll see what happens. But it's just nitpicking, really. But again, Jude Bellingham, he's a guy. As you mentioned, he's that type of character, and he brings it upon himself. But again, he steps up when it matters. When England need him, he's there and he contributes. So if there's one player who can back up what he says, it's definitely Jude Bellingham for sure. I know you mentioned Belgium there as well, and Belgium are a funny one because look at all the players they've had in the past, and Jeremy Doku actually criticised the team after they drew against Kazakhstan, and it kind of made me feel like when I think of Belgium and all the players they've had in the past and the tournaments they've been to, there's not really what they're almost like at one point a golden generation there with Hazard, Fellaini in there, Vertonghen, Lukaku, a real decent group of players there that could have gone on to win a major trophy, but they didn't do that. Now, what's your thoughts on Belgium? And do you think that they could again be in and amongst the big teams next year?
Look, tournament football comes down to a bit of luck, just falling in the right group, falling on the right side of the draw if you're able to qualify. So it's definitely possible. They've still got players that are recognized and have, a lot of ability, so it's possible that they could make it far, but it would all depend on where they fall, in terms of, do you get the harder side of the knockout stages? Do you have a tough group to get yourself through? How's everyone feeling by way of injuries, and can they deal with the heat? That it will be during the World Cup in America. So it's many factors. They are due to lift a trophy with the so-called golden generation of their crop, so we'll see how it plays out. De Bruyne is still there, Doku's there, Lukaku's there, Courtois there. It's just I think their defensive partnerships are a bit, not the best, in terms of where they play and the leagues they're playing in and things like that. But tournament football is about outgunning your opponent, so if they're able to do that, they'll be just fine, and we could see them in the latter stages of the tournament.
Yeah, but it shows you how tough international football is, though, isn't it? Because we talk about golden generations and teams are expected to win tournaments, right? But it shows you can have all the best players or some of the best players in the world, but it doesn't guarantee you're going to win a tournament. And again, like we mentioned in our chat a couple of days ago, there's different factors that come into play when it comes to winning tournaments. Sometimes you need a bit of luck, as you mentioned. Sometimes you need a good side of the draw. Teams that you're expected to beat is teams that you're likely to beat. But again, you can just come up against a really good team like France or even Portugal, who I think are dark horses for next year, got a very good side. You need a bit of luck, and it just takes different factors to help you get over the line. And do you know what? I'm going to talk about Portugal quickly, actually. And Ronaldo said that it's going to be his last World Cup next year. And if there's one player who I would love to see win the World Cup, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. Because you look at his career, what he's achieved, and people often look at him and say, well, he's not won the World Cup, so he shouldn't be considered as one of the greatest players ever, which I don't agree with that at all. But there's one player who I think deserves one crowning moment and just one last piece to the puzzle, to walk out or just sail into the sunset, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. So we look at Portugal's chances, not just Ronaldo, but they've got Bernardo Silva in there as well. Very good players. A team that they've built up. Again, you're going back past years with lots of Figo in there, Deco, Carvalho. Portugal also had a very good team. But it feels like maybe this time around for Ronaldo, it could be the year where they actually win the World Cup and he wins it.
I mean, look, man, I feel like they fall into the same category as Belgium, maybe even England as well, where it's a decent side, but it all just comes down to the other factors you can't control, which is the group you're in, the side of the draw you're in, injuries, these type of things, refereeing decisions, these things that you can't really control. So look, if Ronaldo is able to pick up the World Cup at the end of this tournament, right, I think it puts him in that conversation of, we all know we have that debate, GOAT or not GOAT, Messi, Ronaldo, Messi, that then puts him, in a position where, he's equaled, I guess, Messi in terms of, major.
But Flexx, should that define him though? Should that, the fact that you look at everything he's achieved in the game individually and as part of the team, right? Should the World Cup trophy, should that really define his legacy?
Do you know what it is? Is that they will use that against him. They'll say, oh yeah, but you didn't win the World Cup. And as if one person can win the World Cup and it's not like a squad of players, right? Like it's kind of silly, but that's what they'll use to say, you're second, never mind. Even if he reaches 1,000 goals for club and country, it won't be that, look at this amazing feat that no one's achieved. They won't be talking about that. The conversation will always be, but he never won the World Cup. And most of the greats won the World Cup and he wasn't able to win the World Cup. So look, for his sake, I hope he's able to achieve it. But more so, I'd rather England win it, to be totally honest, or Ghana. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree though. Again, if I was to pick one player, I feel like, again, if we're talking about him, people using that against him, which they do all the time, which I think is ridiculous, to be fair, because you look at everything, his numbers, his stats, the teams he's played in, what he's done in the game, to just use a World Cup against him to say he's not one of the, I've even heard people say he's not in the top 10 of all time, which is strange to me. And that's their opinion. And football's all about opinions, Flexx. But if you sit there, you're telling me you're a football fan and you watch football for all these years, and you're telling me that Cristiano Ronaldo is not amongst the top 10, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. I don't know what to say to that, to be honest.
I would love to ask by what metrics is their top 10 governed by? Because if he's not even in the top 5, I think that's, it's beyond crazy if you ask me.
People don't like him. People don't like Ronaldo, so they won't give him the credit. Simple as that. I've said it for years. They don't like Ronaldo, so they're not going to give him the credit he deserves. Everyone loves Messi because Messi comes across as very humble. He's a nice guy. But people say Ronaldo's arrogant. Is this? But he backs it up. Who else has done what he's done in the game? Look at his individual stats, what he's contributed towards the game. All the leagues he's been in there, right? Even in Saudi, he's scoring for fun in Saudi at 40 years old.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
Won a Champions League at Man United, went to Madrid, destroyed that league. Went to Juventus, again, great there, top scorer there. Come back to a very poor United team that was struggling, by the way, and was still top scorer in that team as well. And goes to Saudi at 40 years old and still. I mean, what else can the guy do?
There's not much else you can do, right? Besides win the World Cup.
Clearly, yeah.
What it is. That's what it is. He's got to lift the World Cup, and then he'll be recognized as an all-time great. Till then,
which I think is ridiculous. And I've said that before. People who love Messi watching this, it's ridiculous. Like, honestly, Messi's a great player. I've said it before. Ronaldo and Messi, for me, the two greatest players I've ever seen in my life. But to put one above the other, or vice versa, because they've not won a single, I don't understand that. I don't get it. I think people just don't like him, and they won't give him the credit he deserves. But again, it's very difficult to watch a football player like him. And again, I've seen him when he first come through at United. The teenager who had to develop his game, become stronger, develop attributes in his game. He became quick, he became strong, scored with both feet, had those, really in the Premier League, a really physical league, but came in, took it all in his stride, improved. I remember that 2008 season where he won the Ballon d'Or, won the Champions League and the Premier League United. Amazing. From 2006 to 2009, there wasn't a better player in the Premier League than Ronaldo. Then goes to Madrid, destroys that league there as well. Part of the team that won 100 points in 2012 under Mourinho. He's done so much in the game, and people just say he's not in the top 10. For me, is baffling. Again, it's all about opinions, Flexx. It's all about opinions.
It is.
But for you to say that he's not in the top 10, I think is strange. But listen, I don't want to go on a tangent about Ronaldo because I've done that before, innit? But again, guys, it's been great as always to discuss or run up the international break. And again, the Premier League is back this weekend. But again, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about our topics today. You know, were Nigeria unlucky to lose because of Voodoo, as the head coach said? What do you think about McTominay's form? Should he have stayed United? Was he better off leaving the club? Clearly, he's doing well at Napoli. And Jude Bellingham as well. He's a topic that's been trending in the news right now. Do you think he should start for England? Should he be dropped? And again, when it comes to the nations to look out for next year in the World Cup, let us know who your favourites are in the comments below. And as always, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, also on X as well. Subscribe if you've not done already. We've surpassed 100 subscribers now, so the next target is 150, 200. We can get there, guys. And we do appreciate all your support so far. And yeah, Flexx, man, it's been great as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Yes, sir. Take care, guys.
You too, man.